Okay, what is Buckeyes for accessibility? We're a really old org. On paper, we've been around since like the 90s. In practice, we've been around since like at least the 70s or 80s. We've had a lot of name changes and a lot of logo changes, and we kind of become whatever the community needs at the moment. But I think a good way to talk about, like, stepping back, we are the largest and oldest student disability organization on campus. We have a couple of aims within our community. We do a lot of community connection and just having students who are disabled on campus just be able to have a support system and to know other people who are having similar experiences. And then we do a bunch of kind of cool like advocacy work. And also we have these B4A meetings where I teach you all about disability history and like that it's okay to be disabled. And Frank does cool things about disability and sexuality and horror movies and whatnot. And some of our other officers do really cool things. And then we have some other projects going on, like something I can't talk a lot about, but does exist, is we're working on making like an audit, like an accessible map of campus, which is something we've been working on for the past couple of years. One of our previous presidents, Caden, started this project a couple of years ago. He's an angry wheelchair user on campus. So we're continuing that. You may notice that our logo is black and gray on the screen, and that is because last year and for all of the years prior, we had OSU red as our logo color. And then this year, Frank and I became co-presidents again, and Frank changed it to purple. And I don't know how to change something from red to purple in Photoshop, so I just grayed it out. But if you see like B4A stuff that's red, that just like used to be what we are, but now we're purple. But now, this logo, which was also, I believe, designed by Kate and Gail, let's talk about it. So we have an infinity symbol, which was the like symbol of neurodivergent / autism. With the slash through the infinity symbol is a spoon, which is a reference to Spoonie, which is a phrase coined by a woman with chronic illnesses to describe what it's like to live with chronic illness or like a energy limiting condition. We will talk more about Spoonie, I think, next meeting. And then on the left-hand side, we have someone holding a white cane. You'll presume that they're blind or visually impaired. On the right side, did I say left side? Yeah, left side. On the right side, we have I love you or Illy in sign language, kind of encompassing our deaf and hard of hearing community. It's a part of us. And then at the top, we have a wheelchair user in an active position. So we tried to encapsulate like chronic illnesses, physical disabilities, deaf and hard of hearing, people who are blind and visually impaired, and then neurodivergence all into one really cool logo, because that is us. I feel we also need like a brain somewhere in there. It just wasn't cute of just like, well, I guess neurodivergency is sort of linked to just brains full of worms. But we're just, our tagline for a really long time has been people who just get it. And I don't know, every year we kind of change in what we are. But I think like this year we're really interested in community connection and just connecting our members with resources on campus and outside of campus and connecting them with different communities that they may not realize are available to them on campus and in the greater Columbus area and in the United States. Because none of you are alone, and in like the most kind way possible, none of your experiences are unique and you should be thankful for such things. Most of them. So that's kind of B4A. I don't know if I did a good job summarizing that, but we're going to move on. Where's my cursor? Where's my cursor? Okay. So that we're all on the same page. I believe only 2 of you are new, but that being said, just to get everyone on the same page, we're going to talk about what it means to have a disability. So we're going to look at the 3 different ways that people within like the world and disability studies look at disability. There's the metal / legal aim. There is the sort of social perspective and there's a cultural perspective. So I'm just going to kind of read these and I might talk about them a little bit. But in medical jargon, having a disability is having a condition that impacts how you are able to perform activities of daily living, and IEDLs are a flavor of activities of daily living that I don't remember because I'm a bad health sciences major. But it's another kind of like activities of daily living. It's a very like clinical perspective of disability. In legalese, having a disability is having a condition that limits one or more major life activities or bodily functions, or being regarded as having such things. Like a little end clause is there because there are people, for example, in the deaf community who don't identify as having a disability, although legally we would consider them as being disabled because they have a condition that limits one or more life activities or bodily functions like hearing. So that is just like real, I think condensed down, that's really focusing on the diagnosis and not necessarily like a diagnosis, and also like productivity and worth. And I don't think that it encapsulates the spectrum of what it's like to be disabled or to have a disability. And then if we're looking at it from like the social model of disability, which is the other one that you learn a lot about, it is being seen as existing outside of the global and cultural norms. You take intro to disability studies, you'll have some like really, you can have some really fun conversations about like whether being of color or whether being queer is a disability. It's really fun. Highly recommend. So that's cool. Socially can also be being treated differently or not being able to access your environment equally. I wear leg braces, which means people try and pray for me on the bus, which is being treated differently. And then being told or socialized to believe part of you isn't normal or needs to be fixed, which I think a lot of us can relate to. And so like that's kind of the like social perspective on what it means of disability. And then the spiciest one, the best one, is culturally, which is just human variation. We now talk about how people with ADHD were real good hunters and gatherers, and we just haven't. We're just our brains are not quite ready for modern industrial society, but like we're just a variation of the normal. Or my brother had 11 toes. That's just sort of a variation. Experiencing, approaching, or navigating life in a way that falls on a diverse spectrum outside of the cultural defect. And we keep these ones in purple because they're kind of how we think about disability at B4A. And I think are the most sort of inclusive and encompassing of the experiences. But depending on what context you are in different situations, you may be looking at disability in different ways. So this is your brief spark notes on disability. Okay, here's the thing, team. Language is constantly evolving. It's people get PhDs and such things. So not all members of the disability community agree on the same language. It's always a good idea to ask someone's preferred language, because some people are really into person first language, like Julia is a person with cerebral palsy. That took me way too long to come up with. It puts the human being before anything else. It's a safe choice. Or like code is a rollator user. Those are person first. Identity first is going off of disabled person. It puts the identity, it puts pride in the identity and reinforces that disabilities are nothing to be ashamed of. I'm a dyslexic, for example, is like one way, or blah, blah, blah. It's an autistic person is like another one of identity first. I have to move my caption so that I can see the words. Movements such as the crip culture movement are reclaiming words like crip, abbreviation of cripple. Though I will say, certain people within B4A, some of which are here and some of which are not, will also fully use the word cripple. But like amongst other physically disabled people as like a shared word for So you can have crip and you can have cripple. Crip is much more the one that people are reclaiming. But there are some people that use cripple as well. But it's in a similar fashion to how the LGBTQ plus community has reclaimed the word queer. And then in certain queer spaces, people have reclaimed other slurs that refer to queer people, which are like a little bit less often used. So language is constantly evolving. Ask someone about their preferred language, because people have really strong feelings, but there also isn't a right answer. So like just have open, kind hearts and assume the best in other B4A members if they make an assumption about describing you as having person first or identity first language, or describing you with person first or identity first language, or using that to describe someone. So, okay, now, who's in the disability community? Because a lot of people come to B4A and they go, as they did the enrollment fair, I don't think I'm disabled. Can I still join? And then they're like, but I do have anxiety, or but I do have type 1 diabetes, or but I do have, I can't think of a third thing. So some of the people that can be or are in the disability community include people with mental health and psychiatric diagnoses, people who have chronic health conditions / spoonies, which is a term we talked a little bit about, people who are neurodivergent, which I'm constantly losing track of what that word means today, but has brain spices, people who have physical / mobility impairments and disabilities, people who are blind, low vision, and visually impaired, deaf and hard of hearing people, and people that are just still figuring it out. Most of the people that are on this meeting right now, or at least 2 or 3 of them, did come to B4A originally being like, I don't have a disability, or something's like a little bit wrong, but I have no idea what's wrong, and now they have diagnoses. So join the club. But this is not an all-encapsulating list of all of the different things that some of our members have or make people part of the disability community, but this is some of the ones that we commonly see in B4A and on campus. Here's the secret. I've talked about this before. If you want to know about language, you should just ask the person. It's like pronouns, where we shouldn't assume people's pronouns. We should just ask them. Same thing nowadays. But generally, words that we use and should not use. Disabled person, person with disability. Super great words. Words you should purge from your vocabulary include handicapped. Just to purge it right now. Just get rid of it. Scrub it out of your brain. Impaired. Yeah. Impaired only works in like a clinical sense. And even there is a little bit iffy. Handicapable, which is like handicapped, but some would argue worse. Special / special needs, we're moving within the disability community. There's a lot of effort being put towards moving away from like the special needs language and rhetoric. Differently abled, that's another one of like trying to minimize disability. And then invalid, because everyone's valid. Quick yawn into the void. I'm doing my best, team. Okay. Guided discussion and vibes. The recording is going to end. So I'm not going to count down, but I'm going to end the recording. Wait, no, that would stop screen sharing. One moment. Come back. No, come back. Okay.